Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets for a Thursday, July the 20th, 2023. I'm here with my friend Zoe Collins-Rath and Spencer the Guru Urquhart as we're set to bring you all kinds of great information. We don't have a slide for you, but we can tell you that our headlines today are going to be, we're going to be talking Women's World Cup. We're going to be leading off with that. We're going to be talking Saints beginning training camp a week from tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about the SEC Media Days that are wrapping up in Nashville. And I've got an interesting take on that when we get to that. But how are y'all doing today?
Oh, doing good, Jim. You know, just ready to get into this. It's the calm before the storm with football. But we've got some soccer to talk about. Got Zoe here with us to help us break it down. And so, yeah, it's going to be a good show. Can't wait.
Yep, Zoe, you ready to talk soccer?
I am, if y'all are.
I'm sorry. Am I supposed to? Zach's not here, so I'm calling it soccer without any rolling of the eyes. Some of you might want to call it football, whatever you want to call it. You call it the football. I'm going to call it soccer.
That's fine.
The beautiful game.
See, Derek's saying who that. Jerry is with us. He said he's glad Foskey signed. The rookies are all signed. All the rookies are in house now. Isaiah Foskey yesterday signing the last rookie to sign, and they are all in rookie camp right now. We showed you Mr. Horace telling us hello. And if you want to be part of the conversation here on Bayou Bets, feel free to leave us a comment. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you leave a comment in the comment section, and it will show up, and we will show it on the screen as we go along. We want to get started here with Women's World Cup, and Zoe is our expert on that. The U.S. starts tomorrow. They are I would say that's a pretty big favorite, Zoe, over Vietnam tomorrow. That is 400-1. You got to lay down $40,000 to win $100 to bet on the U.S. Are you going to do it?
Absolutely not. A, I don't have that kind of money, but B, I'm getting flashbacks to the 2019 World Cup. Team USA was still in group stage. They beat Thailand 13-0, which is kind of embarrassing and really sad for a team, especially when you're in the group stage, because it's like, oh, God, we have to play these teams and we're the best team in the world, but we can't not play our best. So unfortunately, we're going to have to run up the score. But it's a great place to be at and to start.
You can also bet $100 if you're feeling frisky on Vietnam. And if they were somehow upset the United States, you'd win $5,000. Or you can bet $10 to win 500. Or, I'm so good at math, you can bet $1 and win 50. That's all free here on the Bayou Bet Show. I'm not advising you do any of those things, but we are here to talk about the Women's World Cup. And Zoe, I want to get into their little pod here, their group, and they are paired up with Portugal, the Netherlands, and Vietnam. And as Spencer was telling me before the show, the Netherlands went to the finals in the last one. So, see them at plus 275. They're probably the biggest threat to the United States.
Definitely in this group stage, and the top two teams will advance out of their group stage. But the Netherlands between USA and the group stage is going to be a rematch of the 2019 World Cup final. Team USA won, 2-0. But the Netherlands is still going to be a great and consistent team that will just minimize any progress that Team USA will have. They have too many great athletes. Megan Rapinoe, Alex Morgan, Crystal Dunn, and Julie Ertz are back in the World Cup stage, coming back from maternity leave. And the only thing the Netherlands and all of these teams have to do is just minimize any damage Team USA can do. And the Netherlands can definitely do that in their group stage. And how well the USA will do against the Netherlands will kind of dictate how well they will do in bracket play.
Spence, your dad has a concern. He said he hopes Zoe knows more about soccer than the other two dummies on the screen. So
I sure hope so. That's how I got her on. So about the group stage thing. So if the U.S. doesn't win the group, which I mean, even if they don't, they'll get out. But you said that could be a disadvantage by not getting out of the group, which I'm assuming that would mean they'd have a much tougher draw in the next round. So at that point, would it, as far as the betting odds, would it almost be better to wait, and because U.S. is such a heavy favorite right now, almost be better to wait and hope they don't win the group in hopes of maybe getting them at a better value down the road?
I don't think it would hurt to lay down maybe like $5 now, and then maybe put down a little bit more if they're going to have a difficult time in the bracket stage, because you're absolutely right. It's going to be a lot harder. They could be facing teams like Canada, who beat them in the Olympics last year and who is another great team. They could face Germany in the quarterfinals, who is returning 20 of their 23 players, and that took second place in the Euro Cup final. Of course, it's easy to rock chalk with Team USA, but you got to wait for the opportune moment. When no one's played before, it's really easy, but maybe lay down a little bit of money in the excuse me, battling a sore throat here, y'all. Maybe bet a little bit of money in the round when the bracket starts. Sorry.
Is this correct that the U.S. is plus 220, not minus 220, Spence? I know you put these.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
I mean, that seems like a value plus 220 if you put it down there. I don't think at any point, especially considering we expect them to win and get out of Group E, that number is not going to go down. I mean, if you want to bet on them now, it seems like the time to do it.
I definitely think so, but my concern is just how much will their odds change if in one-on-one games if they have to face a team like Brazil or any other teams that could also be good value as underdogs.
We go back to this just Vietnam and just showing the importance of starting fast. You talk about this group. Now, you talked about the four women that a lot of us might know, but about the women we don't know. Is this team? How much have they played together? Is this a team that has built chemistry already? Is it something that we should see them coming hot out of the gate, I guess?
I think with the core defenders, forwards, and midfielders that were on this team for the last World Cup go around, we have nothing to worry about. The problem is you can't play those players the entire game. So we're going to see a lot of young players. Alyssa Thompson, the youngest, she's 18 years old. She missed her prom night to play friendly for the U.S. women's national team, which is bonkers to me. And we're seeing a lot of young players. Sophia Smith and Naomi Girma, they were Stanford teammates on the 2019 championship soccer team. It would be really great to see how well they will do early in a game against Vietnam, to see, okay, maybe they can sub them in if they have to play England or Germany, because they don't have the same depth that they used to. And unfortunately, the U.S. women's national team racked up a lot of injuries. So they're down Becky Sauerbrunn, they're down Tobin Heath, they're down Christine Press, Mallory Swanson. She was prepared and ready to go, but unfortunately, she damaged her knee pretty badly in a NWSL game. So the chemistry may not be there, especially with their young players, but it's on the young players to listen and pay attention and go up to experienced players like Crystal Dunn and say, hey, how can I best do my job to make your life easier on the pitch? And that's what they're going to have to do. And you can't force chemistry. And chemistry we all know this, it takes years and years and years to build. There's a reason why there are a lot of late 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds on national teams. They have been building and grooming this team just for this one moment.
Right.
And then they have to wait for the Olympics or the next World Cup.
Well, I was wondering how long it was going to take Zach to chime in here. And all it took was to talk about soccer. And it warms his heart. I will let you know that I'm contractually obligated to talk about soccer, if you believe that or not. No, what are we talking about? It's my idea. I wanted to talk about soccer all day long. If it were up to me, we'd have a 3-hour soccer show today.
Honestly, and we can talk about the U.S. women's national team for hours and hours, because like I said during the men's World Cup, I won't watch soccer, but I'll watch the women's World Cup because they're far superior than the men, point blank, period.
Oh, come on.
It's Team USA is going for a three-peat in the World Cup. That's unheard of.
When you say far superior, do you mean their odds of winning a championship are far superior to the men's team? Or do you mean if they got out on the pitch with the men, they'd kick the men's ass?
I think the game would be a little bit different, maybe some floppage going on. But I think if you put up who on an international stage will bring home a medal or a championship, men or women, obviously the women.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Before we're going to let Spencer close out the segment by asking you a question. But before we do that, Zach wants to know and I'm assuming he means my take and not yours, on whether the U.S. should use a false nine or not. Look, I'm just going to say from watching Ted Lasso, it didn't work for their team. So I'm going to say they should use a true nine. I mean, you don't want to use a false nine. You want to use a true nine. I mean, Spence, you can tell me whether I'm right or not, but wouldn't you go with the true nine?
I don't know. That false nine sounds pretty intriguing.
Zoe?
Liz, you know what? I'm kind of with Zach. I don't necessarily like the idea because the main intention is to get the ball away from the opposition center backs, and in doing so to draw players out of position and disrupt the defense. I mean, they got to reserve as many legs as they can, and I think that's probably the best option to do it, especially if you're trying to disrupt defenses and have easier time scoring goals.
Speaking of contractually obligated, we're contractually obligated to speak English on the show, and I didn't understand one thing you just said. Spence, we're going to let you wrap up this segment right here with the final question for Zoe as we move on to the Saints after this World Cup segment here.
Cool. So from a betting perspective, which team outside of the U.S. do you feel could maybe offer some value? Because I mean, they got these 3 European teams on here that are all really good, obviously. So you think one of them could be worth a ticket, or someone not on this list?
I think Gabe Henderson said that England was considered like the best of the rest. They, excuse me, are the 2022. 2023 EuroLeague champions. They beat Germany 2-1. Between Germany and England, those are great values that could definitely, be in the finals and or beat Team USA along the way and win. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I also want to say on this list could probably be Canada. And I also think that they're plus 700 last I checked. But when you beat Team USA in the semifinals of the Olympics and you win, that means something. And sure, they have off the field issues talking about pay discrepancy and all of that, but you got to leave that off the pitch. If they can challenge, if there's any other team that's the rest of the field, Canada should also, I think, be on this list.
As we show you the odds here, the odds are presented to you by Caesar Sportsbook, which is the official odds partner of bet.NOLA.com and the Bayou Bets show. And before I let you go, I'm trying to call up these final odds here, and I'm having a little trouble. I know this is live TV, so oh well, it's not working here. There we go. Got it calling up. Oh, because I do want to see some of these women's odds here. They have some interesting bets you can make, some special bets that you can make. Check out on Caesar Sportsbook, all kinds of different bets you can make now. All the early matches, everything's on here. You can take a look. You like England, they're playing Haiti off the bat, and their odds are very similar. They are minus 10,000 to win. You're talking about England. Some other big ones. France is a big favorite, minus 6,000 over Jamaica. But the biggest favorite on here is the USA to beat Vietnam. Spain is minus 12,500 over Costa Rica. So there are some big favorites, but there are also some close ones. There's Zach's pick.
That's Canada, Spain, right? By the way, 35-1.
Yep.
I'm not a U.S. flag. I mean, I'm not a world flag expert. Is that Spain? I think that's right.
I think so.
Okay. We're very knowledgeable here on the Bayou Bet show. Final thought, Zoe, on the World Cup. What are you looking forward to most beginning tomorrow? Beginning in New Zealand.
I'm excited to see what the young talent are going to bring. I spoke about them earlier. We got kids fresh out of college. We got kids fresh out of high school that have played in the national team circuit before. But the World Cup is different. So you're going to have an 18, 19, 20-year-old going up against a 32-year-old that's been on the national team for 2 rounds of the World Cup. And if Coach Lott is smart, he's going to rest his main players like Lindsey Horan, Rose Lavelle, and put in all those young players to see what they're capable of, because we will be seeing the future of the U.S. women's national team. And if they can get that easy footing and that experience, then I think the legacy of the U.S. women's national team are in good hands. We are very good at soccer, and there's nothing wrong with, resting legs early, because you're going to need them later.
Other teams to look for, we were talking earlier, after Germany, not on this list, Australia plus 900, France plus 1,100, Sweden is plus 2,000. The Netherlands, again, in the United States bracket, is plus 2,500. Brazil also plus 2,500. And then the Japanese and Canadian women are plus 3,000 and plus 3,500 respectively. So maybe some value there. We'll be talking more Women's World Cup. It ends August the 20th is the championship match. See, I can remember some things. We'll be talking more Women's World Cup as we go along through the NFL preseason. Why not? It's, why not? Thanks, Zoe.
You're welcome. Have fun, guys.
All right. Spence, I want to get your thoughts. Who's your champion? Do you have one?
I mean, I'll take the low-hanging fruit and go with the U.S. because I like the blend of experience and young talent. I feel like at plus odds, it's worth taking a shot on there. Plus 220. I know it's usually not the smart call to pick the favorite, but in this case, they've just been so dominant and appear to have enough talent with their recharge or reloading, as you say, and they're the best team. It's just a matter of if someone can pull the upset or not. They've got some capable teams, but I'll bet on the U.S. Keeping that stranglehold.
Oh, I hate being a homer, but I guess I got to take the U.S. too. That seems like a value to me, plus 220. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about soccer, but I do know this: when it comes to women's soccer, the United States is up there, and it seems to me they've had as much of a stranglehold on soccer as they've had on women's basketball. So give me the United States at plus 220. And I don't know, maybe I'll put like $3 on it just to have something and say, I can show Zach my ticket, and then I'll just ignore that it happened. All right, let's move on. The Saints are reporting to training camp as we speak. The rookies are all in rookie camp. Isaiah Foskey, as we mentioned earlier, was the final rookie to sign. They are getting rolling out there on Airline Drive. And next Friday, everyone will be in the fold, or at least we hope everyone will be on the fold. Zach said he's going to take the field.
Take the field. Okay. I didn't. Yeah, that's minus 250 for the field seems like pretty good value.
Is that can you get the field at minus 250?
Yeah, that seems. I didn't think it'd be that good of value. I thought it'd be more like minus 350, minus 400. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just saying because the U.S. is plus 250, he can take the. I don't know.
Next show we'll go over that next.
Exactly, I'm totally confused. That's very easy to do these days. All right, talking about the Saints as we go into training camp. And Jerry says he's happy we're talking about football. He's got his little fleur-de-lis there. I know he's been waiting for this moment. Saints to win the Super Bowl, still hanging around plus 3,500. We began our NFL previews, our over-under totals, all my predictions. I am working on Adam Chernoff to come back this year. He is moved up in the world, okay? He is a big-wig analyst. He knows what he's talking about. I'm working on getting him back to see. The way we did it last year was I made my presentation, and I told you whether I like the over or under for each specific team. And then he came on and tell me whether I was right or wrong. We jived quite a bit, and for the second straight year, it was over 500. Did pretty well with my over-unders last year. We're going to see if we can do it again. We're going to start off with the AFC South. That is going to come on Tuesday with the Houston Texans. We're going to go team by team, Tuesday through Friday each week. I think one of the weeks, because there's only 7 weeks until season starts, so one of the weeks, I think the last week in August, we're going to do 2 divisions at a time. So we're going to do 2 teams a day on Tuesday through Friday, that last week in August, until we get to the NFC South, which is the final week. I think the Saints will be on September the 8th, if I remember correctly. They are that Friday before the season starts. All right, how How are you feeling about the Saints as we go into training camp? Everybody looking like they're, for the most part, healthy going into camp. We expect Michael Thomas to be there. Alvin Kamara, we're still waiting on a suspension, but he should be there in camp. Kendre Miller spent a lot of time on the sidelines, but he should be there. Even Trevor Penning, I think, should be ready. Spencer, how do you feel about these Saints as we're going into camp next week?
Cautiously optimistic. I feel like they've got the pieces that contend and are the rightful favorites to win the division. But there's still a lot of kinks to iron out, and also the chemistry. As Zoe talked about chemistry with the U.S. women's team, the Saints have some chemistry that they're going to have to iron out on offense with Derek Carr, of course, getting used to the system and working with the new weapons, working with Pete Carmichael. Will Pete Carmichael and Derek Carr be a good match? We better hope so, because the Saints offense doesn't take a step forward, it's going to be a long season, as we saw last year. No matter how good the defense is, if you're not scoring consistently in this quarterback-driven league, most Sundays are going to be rough. So we'll see how it goes. Looking pretty promising, though. Looking like everyone's healthy. So,
well, your dad says he feels the biggest question mark, and I agree with him. Inside in the trenches, the only thing I would add there, I think the number one concern that to me, those are the number two concerns, and really more specifically, I think offensive line is a real pause for concern. Pause, cause, whatever you want to say. I think either one. I'm going to pause, and it's a cause. So however you want to look at it. See, I'm rhyming already. I'm worried about the running back, Spence. I know Jamal Williams is here and Kendre Miller, and we don't know what's going to happen with Kamara, but I keep bringing this up because I think it's going understated. I think that if Alvin Kamara gets suspended, I think the minimum is 6 games. I really do. I mean, I think it could be as many as 8 or 10 with a chance to have it appealed and dropped a couple games. And I know you think it's going to be a little bit lesser than that because I watched your show with Zach last week. But we just, until we find out, it's going to be hanging over this team's head how long he's going to be gone. And to me, if Jamal Williams doesn't come in and the rookie doesn't come in and play well right away, I don't think there's nearly enough depth there.
The thing with the running back position, which I'll get to in my rant, is just kind of how it's like, it's a short-term position in that you can, it's pretty replaceable to where I feel like, though, last year they didn't do a good job of addressing it because you gotta have depth. Like you said, last year all they had was Mark Ingram pretty much behind Kamara, where I feel like with Jamal and Kendre Miller, between the two of them, they should be able to shoulder the workload until Kamara comes back. And then when Kamara does come back, I think the running game's a strength at that point, paired with the receivers, Olave, Thomas, and Shaheed. It's just the O-line, though, definitely is a question mark. But I feel like if Trevor Penning is healthy, then that'll help shore up that left side to where really the only weak link is I always pick on him, Andres Pete. I just don't trust him there at left guard. I feel like he's been kind of a liability for years now. The right side looks pretty sound. Hopefully Cesar Ruiz can keep improving. So the O-line got to step up because the O-line's not doing well, then that's going to trickle down to the running game and the passing game, the whole offense. I mean, you got to have a good foundation up front.
Jim Derry here along with Spencer the Guru Urquhart on this Thursday on Bayou Bets. I was doing some things earlier, and I forgot to put the credit lines back in there, and I can't figure out how to get them back on. So maybe, Zoe, if you can figure out how to do that in the background, great. If not, I'm Jim. He's Spencer. There you go. That's all you really need to know. Look, I think that this is the Saints are going to have to avoid injuries. That's something they haven't done over the past 2 seasons. They have had major injury concerns 2 seasons in a row now. Obviously, Sean Payton was able to get through it and somehow go 9-8, just missed the playoffs, really. That went to that last week. They were able to beat Atlanta, but they got nudged out for that final playoff spot. And then last year, if they hold on to that 16-3 lead against Tampa Bay, they win the NFC South and they're in the playoffs last year, but they couldn't do that. So, but a lot of it had to do with injuries, and a lot of it were injuries in the trenches, and they're going to have to avoid that this year. We have no idea what to expect from this offensive line. I think they could be really good, or I think they could be really bad. And I know that's going out on a limb, but I just don't think we know what the hell we're going to get.
Yeah, it's kind of shaky. It's definitely kind of shaky. The other position group that I'm a little concerned about is the secondary, specifically the safeties, because I feel like between Honey Badger and Marcus May, they both got a lot of miles on them, getting older. You know, they're good when they're healthy, but they're just, I mean, can you trust them to play all 17? And the depth behind him, I know we always pick on him. They're glad he's gone or whatever, CJ GJ, but he was a very good third safety. I mean, he was in. I mean, I know they've got some new guys in there, but it's like the cornerback room should be good, assuming Alante Taylor takes that second-year leap like we're thinking, because Paulson Adebo, though, didn't last year. If anything, he took a step backwards. So need Alante Taylor.
Remember how everybody was talking about him in preseason last year, about how great he looked, and then he just kind of faded away and not to be found again the rest of the year.
Paulson I know, Adebo. Right? Yeah, they got Bradley Roby, veteran nickel. So, I mean, if all goes well, Adebo will be the number 4 corner. Because
Lattimore's got to stay healthy. Got to stay healthy. Got to stay healthy. All right, before we move on, Dad says he wished the commissioner would let us know where we stand on Kamara. I think it's coming soon. I don't think it's going to be much longer before we find out. I think they'll get into camp. Wouldn't surprise me at all if we find out before the first preseason game where they stand on that, because they're not going to let them go too long on that. Let's move on. We've already probably gone a little bit further than I wanted to on before we get to our final non-rant topic. We're going to have our rants at the end. But before we do, SEC Media Days. They're wrapped up in Nashville this week. It's been an interesting week. A lot of interesting conversation. You see the numbers there. Georgia's, and I didn't know this until going on. I'll be on Final Bets with Garland Gillen tonight on Fox 8. Something he brought up to me, and I didn't realize this, but apparently Georgia's over-under win total, and you guys may have talked about this while it was gone, is 11.5. That means you either have to bet that Georgia's going to go undefeated or not. I mean, that to me, that is insane. It doesn't quite line up with these numbers. I mean, do we just assume that the SEC winner is going to go undefeated? I think that's quite a reach.
Yeah, I think with being in the SEC East is why that is. You know, SEC East, I mean, all the other teams in the hunt there, Alabama, LSU, A&M are in the West. I don't know who would be the biggest threat in the East. I mean, shoot, South Carolina,
Tennessee?
Maybe. I mean, Tennessee, Kentucky. Yeah, that's the thing. The SEC East sucks because, I mean, Florida's down right now. They're kind of rebuilding.
Giving Spencer Rattler any credit?
I kind of like South Carolina, but not to beat Georgia. So it's like I'm not sure their non-conference schedule, but I can see why this number is what it is. But there's no value, though. I'm not touching it. It's one of those things. If they get a three-peat, okay, but I'm not betting on it. I'd rather take the chance on someone else. And out of here, probably LSU, because Alabama's got some concerns. Nick Saban might be on his way out after this year. So to me, LSU is the best value on this board.
I couldn't agree more. And I actually think that LSU is a bargain at as national championship. I think it's the last I looked, it was like plus 1,000. Is that where it's still around where we are?
Yeah.
So you bet $100, you win $1,000. So you bet 10, you win 100. So 10-1. I think that's a good number on LSU. And I'll be honest, I talk about this as well tonight. I like Texas A&M as a value play. They have some interesting. They have an interesting quarterback battle going on. Max Johnson may or may not be in there right now. He's not the starter, but I think he's going to get some playing time. But I think that Jimbo got this huge contract, Spence, and I think that I think we'll see Texas A&M as a factor in the SEC West. I really do.
Yeah, they got so much talent there, all the NIL money,
right?
And who I think it was Hugh Freeze was on complaining about our Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, about NIL money ruining college football.
That's because his players don't have it.
Right. Yeah. The A&M, I mean, A&M last year was terrible, and they had all the NIL money in the world, so it's not a guarantee. So, I mean, and it helps, but it's like it's not a guarantee. It's just sour grapes, I feel like, because Ole Miss, I guess, hadn't been keeping up.
Right, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep up. I definitely don't have them on my value list. I think the top 3 teams in the SEC are all on this page. The one that I don't think is going to be any good this year, at least not to their standards, is Alabama. They are a mess at the quarterback position. They have no idea what they're doing there as of right now. And I said it a few weeks ago on the final bet before I went on vacation that I thought that this was going to be Nick Saban's last year, and Garland Gillen went crazy. And since then, we've had some well-known columnists say kind of the same thing. So I just think that this is going to be a mess. I think Alabama is a 7 or 8 win type, having a 7 or 8 win season this year. Their over-under wins is 10 and a
7
half.
or 8.
I love their under.
Wow, 7 or 8. Dang.
That is my number one bet in the SEC, betting the Alabama under 10 and a half wins. I just don't think they're going to be, don't get me wrong, I still think they're going to be good, but they're not going to be Alabama good, what we've been used to. I mean, I think they're still in the running for like a Sugar Bowl or a Major Bowl, but I don't think they're going to be in the running for a playoff at all. I just don't. So we'll see if I'm right or not, but I really like LSU in the West. I think it's another year of LSU and Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Jaden Daniels they're trending up at the right time, and the defense is sound. So yeah, I think there's value there, because I feel like if you bet on Alabama, you're betting on Nick Saban. You're just betting on Nick Saban in hopes that they figure it out, because they still haven't yet, like especially a quarterback, which he normally does. But if this is his last year, it's like he might just be. Is he going to be? Well, I'm sure he's not always all in, but is the game it's kind of like the Bill Belichick thing? Is it like you can only be at the top of your game for so long? Are these guys, as great as they are, kind of starting to slip a little bit?
I don't disagree with that at all, and it's going to be interesting. And that LSU Texas A&M game, the finale of the regular season, could be a really, really big game, a lot bigger than it was last year. And if that's the case, LSU better hope they play better than they played in that game last year, because they kind of laid an egg, kind of the downer after Alabama, and it wasn't right after the Alabama victory, but I think it was 2-3 weeks after, and they just didn't play very well. They better figure out how to put it all together for 12 weeks, and they better do it right off the bat, because they open up with Florida State, and to me, the winner of that game is in a great spot to make a run for the playoffs, because I mean, it may come down to the winner of that game getting in or getting out. All right, let's move on to our rants as we close out the show. We're going to start off with Spencer today, and he's talking about running backs getting paid, and he's not talking about NIL. He's talking about the NFL.
Definitely, yeah. To me, there's really only one solution to this, and that's for positions like running backs that don't last as long, they've got to, for the next CBA, got to negotiate a clause to where running backs don't have to do 4-year contracts, where they could sign shorter term contracts and hit free agency, unrestricted free agency, that is, at a younger age. The owners aren't going to go for that at first, but I'm sure there's ways they could bargain and negotiate to try to help out guys at these positions. Like mainly running back's the main position affected by this, because you notice this year with the franchise tag, not many players got franchise tag, but a lot of running backs did. And that's because we're quarterbacks and receivers, teams tend to just bite the bullet and extend them out, because they figure they're going to last 5-10 years. But running backs, they know most running backs don't make it to 10 years. So they just keep hitting them with these 1-year deals, short-term deals, very little guaranteed money. So to me, there's only one solution. They've got to hit free agency sooner, because if the way this is going, and I mean, they're kind of just, or switch to slot receiver. It could just be a different position, but the running back position is not going away. It's good. The way the game is, it's still an important position, but it's a very replaceable position. So for those guys that are just the pure runners, then you're just going to have to hope that in the next CBA, you can get shorter rookie contracts, and you might not get quite as much up front, but you'll definitely have a better chance of getting the big bag in year 3 or year 4.
I think that your theory is a good one in concept. However, I don't think that legally it would be able to pass the muster. And what I'm saying is by that is you can't. I don't think you can put in something in a league-wide contract, or the union would be able to prove something that says that rookies can get out of contracts up to 2 years, but running backs can get out of contracts after a certain amount of time, but other positions can't. I think whatever you do for one position, you have to do for everyone. So, I mean, I think you would have to change it to where rookies are only under contract for 2 to 3 years, and I don't think the owners are going to go for that. So while I agree with you, because running backs have short shelf lives, there's no doubt about that. I just don't see it being a feasible thing to happen in the NFL. I could be wrong. But again, maybe there's a different way to go about doing that. I'm not sure. But there's no way I can't see. And even if the union were to go for it, that to me would be easily challengeable in court because you can't treat one group one way and not treat everyone else the same. But
yeah, no, you have a good point there. It's a very messy situation. Honestly, what the compromise would be to have the last 2 years of rookie contract, or at least the fourth year, be an option instead of like fifth year option.
that would be probably more of a possibility.
Yeah, just have it more like do the options different, especially for like these later round picks. For example, if you've got a 4th round running back that's like really good, like, you know, instead of having to play on a cheap contract for 4 years, have the last 2 years be option years.
Well, the owners certainly
wanted player options.
Yeah,
player options.
The owners certainly wanted to have structured contracts for the first 4 years. They got what they wanted there, and they are saving themselves a ton of money by doing it this way. So another thing, you're talking about getting the old owners to do something a little different that probably doesn't benefit them very much. Interesting. And that's a good segue for my rant, which is Saints fans, did you notice today the big news in sports? No, it's not necessarily the Women's World Cup starting tomorrow. It's not that training camps are coming up or that conferences are having their media days. It's that the Washington Commanders were sold for $6.06 billion today. That's right. You know, Dan Snyder, for all the dumbass things he's done and how that dude is rich is mind-boggling. How disgusting as an individual as Dan Snyder is, as rich as he is mind-boggling. But he's even richer than he was. $6.06 billion. I can't remember the exact number that Tom Benson bought the Saints for back in 1985, but it's somewhere along the lines of, it was 2 digits in the millions. I want to say it was like $75 or $80 million. So, and Zoe's going to look that up, I know, before we go off our rant.
Yeah, find the
Whatever
ROI
it is,
on that.
it was definitely million, and it was definitely much smaller than 200. I know it was less than 200 million. So the fact that the worth of these NFL franchises has gone up and up and up. But my point of my rant today is not necessarily that how ridiculous it is that they sold for $6.06 billion. 70 million, I was right. That's what the Saints sold for back in 1985. Thank you, Zoe. But the point is that for Saints fans out there, one day, and we hope it's not for 30 more years, that Gail Benson is going to depart this earth. I'm not exactly sure how old she's in her mid to late 60s, if I remember correctly. So she's going to be owner of the Saints and Pelicans for quite a while. But the day that she does pass on and that whole transition,
mid 70s, actually.
Okay, is she that old? I didn't realize that she was that advanced.
76.
Don't want to say old in case she's watching. Advanced, okay, because I'm advanced myself, so I get it. But that day is going to come one day, and let me tell you, it's not. She's 76. Wow. Okay, so that day may come sooner than any of us want or hope, but none of us hope that it happens. But when it happens, it is going to be a long, arduous process. These New Orleans Saints aren't going to be sold nearly as easy as the Washington Commanders. First off, every owner other than Daniel Snyder, and probably Daniel Snyder at that point, wanted the Commanders to have a new owner. Number two, there's going to be people coming out of the woodwork from everywhere wanting a piece of these New Orleans Saints. Remember Rita Benson LeBlanc? That name's going to come out of the woodwork again. I promise you. Everybody is going to be coming out wanting a piece of the Saints, wanting a piece of the Pelicans. It's going to happen. So, and just kind of take and go back and watch the history of how this happened. The Saints are going to be a much different story. Zoe says the value of the franchise of the Saints right now valued at $3.58 billion. I'm no mathematician, but that's quite a profit from 1985 to now. I know 1985 because that's the year I graduated high school. That is 38 years ago. And 38 years, it's gone from 70 million, Spencer, to nearly $3.6 billion. That's why Tom
It's absurd.
Benson was a good businessman.
Yeah, all those car dealerships, and then what really got him go was the Saints. The Saints was the smartest investment he ever made, was buying the Saints.
The zero question. And if people remember, people who are my age back then, and I was graduating high school in 1985, and it was a major threat. It looked like the Saints were going to move to Jacksonville.
Oh, Lord.
John Meekum was selling the team. He didn't care what happened to the team. He didn't care whether they stayed in New Orleans. To be honest, I don't think the league really cared all that much. They loved coming to New Orleans. But if they moved, they moved. And there was a major threat that the team was going to move to Jacksonville. And Tom Benson stepped in and bought him and kept him here in New Orleans, although he threatened to move him in 2005 to San Antonio. But that's a whole different story. But they did stay. And but anyway, one of these days when it comes, whether it's 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now, when the Saints are in line to be sold, it ain't going to be pretty. But we'll worry about that, right? Till then, that is going to pretty much wrap up our show. Again, a reminder that Caesars Sportsbook is the official odds partner of bet.NOLA.com. And we ask you, if you're watching on NOLA.com or the Advocates channel, wherever you're watching, if you're not watching on Bayou Bets, please go and subscribe to our Bayou Bets YouTube channel. We have all kinds of cool stuff, and Zoe's been doing a real good job with the shorts. We have little shorts that you can see, little snippets, little segments. I'm sure there'll be something about the Women's World Cup in there before too long at some point. And go check out Spencer's been doing a lot of great things on TikTok as well. We're all over the place. Instagram, sign up. Bayou Bets. You want to see it. You want to hear it. We're going to be back on Monday. I don't know what Spencer and I are going to be talking about, but my guess is football will be involved some kind of way. What do you think?
Gotta be. Training camp starting next week.
Finally. And again, Datitude taking tomorrow off, but next week it is going to be 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday. Jerry, we thank you for being a part of this show. Tuesday through Friday next week, as we get into our NFL previews, starting with the AFC South and the Houston Texans. Until Monday, we'll talk to you then. Thanks for joining us on Bayou Bets. Peace and love, my friends.